We all want to feel peace in our lives. Peace in our choices, our beliefs, our relationships, and our environment. I've learned that this desired contentment is often found through holding on to less. When we pare down what we own, what we consume, and what we value, we're left with what's intentional, a personalized curation of what is important and true and useful to us. I'm Shannon Leyko, and you're listening to Paring Down, a podcast aimed at helping you declutter not only your home, but any area of your life that's overwhelming. Here, we're having interesting and honest conversations about the physical and mental clutter that drowns out what truly matters to each of us. And together, we'll learn how to pare it all down, not for the sake of perfection or becoming rigid, rather so we can move through life with less overwhelm and more joy, wisdom, and peace. Welcome back to Paring Down. Okay, so if my calendar stays the way I think it will stay, this is the first episode that is airing while I am actually currently on our 3-week road trip to Alaska. I may or may not, at this very moment, be finding out if I'm allowed to take our glowfish across borders to Canada. Say a prayer for Harry, Ron, and Hermione. I think they're going to be allowed to travel with us, our 3 little fish, our glowfish. But I have heard that it kind of depends on the border control agent that you get. Right now, at this very moment, I also could be wrangling 3 children in a gas station bathroom. Other options, pulling a tick out of my dogs because we've been camping, or blatantly on day 4 of no shower. But as of today, the moment that I'm recording this, I am clean, I am calm, and I am not living out of a van. Even though, I kind of love living out of a van, it's just an aggressive move for 3 kids, 2 dogs, 3 fish, 2 adults, and whatever we're going to need to survive for at least a week or 2 without our household goods once we arrive in Alaska. So for today, I will be grateful that I'm sitting in my podcast studio, aka the corner of my bedroom, talking to you all with at least one thread of my sanity still intact. Speaking of sanity, that's actually kind of what we're touching on today, because an untidy home is really a recipe for losing our marbles. You know, when we don't know where things are and the house is falling apart, nobody is well. Nobody's happy. And this episode was actually inspired because I had somebody in my DMs who replied to a story I did. I do tap to tidies on my Instagram sometimes where, I take a picture of my messy house, like a messy space in my house. And then I say, tap to tidy. And you just tap the screen to go to the next story and it magically cleans before your very eyes. I wish it was that simple in real life. However, on my Tap to Tidies, I like to remind everyone that having a decluttered home isn't about having a house that's always tidy. It's about having a house that's easy to tidy. Now, why is that distinction so important? Well, because if you try and keep your house perfectly tidy 24/7, then you're still letting the stuff control you because you're letting it stress you out if you can't make your house look like nobody lives there, which is ridiculous because the whole point of a house is that that's where you live, And if you're older, like you don't have kids at home, that's probably easier to keep your house tidy all the time, unless, you have a partner who is hurricane status. So this will depend on your stage of life as to how easy it is to keep a home that's tidy. But you could also just be the kind of person that, kids aside, you're kind of a messy person. That's me. I had no excuse for a messy house in my early 20s, but my room would get absolutely out of control. I lived in a studio apartment in New York City, and I did take a lot of pride in tidying up, but it wasn't always tidy by any means. It was usually 3 to 4 days of coming home, stripping down, putting on my sweatpants, and leaving the clothes that I had worn just there, just on the floor, like a hooligan, really. But I still struggle with that. I still have hooligan energy at age 36. Right now, actually, there is a pile of clothes on my closet floor that I'm these need to be washed in cold. So I'm not going to put them in the dirty clothes hamper. I'm just going to make a pile right here on the ground, And the thing is I've really learned to let go of this notion that I need to become this perfectly tidy individual. Really what matters is that I'm not letting these things build up to a point where they become unmanageable or difficult to take care of. Right now, that little pile on my closet floor, while it's not visually appealing and I do not recommend, it's also not stressing me out. because I know exactly what I'm going to do with it. It takes me 2 seconds, probably after this podcast, since it's obviously on my mind. I will pick up that pile. I will go put it in the dirty or in the washing machine on cold, call it a day, right? I'm not stressed out about my house not being perfect. And the reason it doesn't stress me out is because it's easy to pick up. It's super easy to tidy. That's because it doesn't have layers upon layers of mess. I think we've talked about like layers of clutter before, but one layer of clutter to me is like a very normal part of life. We cannot expect that our children are always going to put their little manual pencil sharpener back where it goes. I would love for that to happen. If you've figured out a way to get your kids to put every little thing back where it goes, please DM me and tell me what spell I need to cast. But like, I'm generally okay with a little bit of a mess. We live here. It's cool. However, it's the layers. It's when those start to build up that our home starts to feel really overwhelming. And that's when we really start to have a problem. Our house is stressing us out. And that's what this podcast is about, is like, how do we make sure our home isn't stressing us out? So anyway, I did the tap to tidy, made the point that it's not about having a house that is perfectly tidy all the time. It's about having a house that's easy to tidy. And I got a DM from a listener named Christine who said, well, can you go over, or do you have an episode of what makes a house or a space easy to tidy? What does that mean? And I was like, oh, it's a great question. And today I was going to be recording an episode about like how to avoid the temptation to cyclically upgrade and overconsume, because we're like always trying to get the next version of something that's better. And I was not feeling it. Someday I'll do that episode. It's still on my list. Don't worry. If that sounds good to you, I'll get to it. But she said that, and I was like, yes, I feel like talking about this today. So you know what? Thanks, Christine, for getting me out of my podcast funk. I do have an episode called 20 Habits of the Home, 20 Habits to Keep Your Home from Being Overwhelming, 20 Habits of the Home to Prevent Overwhelm. One of those titles. I will have that linked in the show notes. But this is a little different than habits. This is like, how are you structuring your home so that it's super easy to tidy? So that, like me, you can look around your space and be like, clearly there's evidence of life, but that's not a big deal because I can pick all this up in 5 or 10 minutes and we'll be good to go. But before we dive into these 10 ways to make your space easy to tidy, I want to kind of underscore the importance of a tidy home. There is a 2016 study from the Journal of Environmental Psychology that found that clutter not only reduces psychological well-being, as in it drives you nuts, but it also decreases the feeling of psychological home, which can be described as this sense of belonging associated with your living space. This is like home is where the heart is, right? Like as a military family, I can't say that there's any one house that I feel like is home because we live in a new one every 3 years. But there's a sense of belonging in any living space that we live in. And that is decreased when we have an overabundance of clutter, which can feel counterintuitive because sometimes people have this misconception that clutter is a reflection of who they are. And so it's important to, make your home feel homey. Yes, make your home feel homey. You guys know I love a cozy space. Like I am not a bare walls, no blankets kind of a girl. Like give me hygge 24/7. I want to feel, cozy in my home. However, when we have so much stuff in our home because we think we need all of it to reflect who we are, we've really lost sight of the bigger picture, which is like you don't know who you are if everything represents who you are. You can have an abundance of interests and passions and think lots of things are cool and cute, but the more that adds up, none of it has meaning anymore. A home is somewhere where you can feel safe and calm and happy. And yes, we want our things around us to reflect who we are. I'm a big believer in that. In fact, I think the more that we highlight the important things to us, the less we're going to have room for the clutter. It's important to remember that more doesn't equate better when it comes to this feeling of a psychological home. Another reason you want to keep your space tidy, like yes, decluttering is important, but also like actually tidy, where it looks nice on the outside, like a lack of visual clutter, clean, put together, that kind of a tidy thing, is because studies do show that clutter can lead to a cognitive overload, which results in decreased productivity. Another piece of research from the Journal of Environmental Psychology in 2011 found that people who were working in cluttered spaces had a harder time focusing and were more likely to procrastinate. So An organized space allows for easier task execution and better focus. Ironically, or like in the same vein, if you want to declutter your home, you're going to procrastinate doing that because you have so much stuff. That's part of what makes decluttering so hard, is that like this stuff is actively working against your productivity and you need to be productive in order to declutter. And like that's a tough combo. But if you want to be able to, I don't know, work at home, make dinner, schedule your life in a way that doesn't make you pull your hair out, just any form of productivity that happens within the house, a tidy space around you, like that's visually decluttered, is going to help you do those things more effectively. And another big thing is that a tidy space actually promotes better sleep. I always find this research to be super fascinating, that a clean and uncluttered bedroom actually enhances sleep quality, which is published in the Sleep Health Journal, that found that participants who reported more clutter in their bedrooms had more sleep disturbances. We think, oh, I'm just going to go to bed and close my eyes. But if your bedroom is super cluttered, that messes with your brain. Even if you think it doesn't, even if you're like, I'm down with clutter, your brain is like, no, thank you. This isn't good for me. So it is important to keep a tidy space, even if you're like me and you're not naturally clean. Like it is just better not to put piles on your closet floor like I currently have right now. Okay, so to answer Christine's question, what makes a space easy to tidy? What are some ways we can make sure that we're setting our spaces up for success? The first one's going to be super obvious. It is what I talk about all the time, is what I've already mentioned. It is what this entire podcast is about. And obviously, I'm not going to leave it off the list just because it's obvious. So, number one, you got to have less stuff. That is what makes a space easy to tidy. My kids' playroom, I use the 10-minute rule. I'm sure I've said it on this podcast before, but basically, if it takes longer for us to clean up the playroom than 10 minutes, if it takes longer than 10 minutes, I couldn't get that sentence out correctly, then we have too much stuff. And that's when like full explosion mode, not just at the end of every day, it should take minutes. No, if I'm cleaning up the playroom at the end of every day, which I don't, it's not one of my non-negotiable spaces. It is we throw toys back in the playroom that have migrated out into the living room every night, because the living room is one of my non-negotiable cleanup places. But, the playroom probably gets cleaned every like 4 to 5 days. And it's like full disaster mode. If from full disaster mode to entirely picked up is longer than 10 minutes, we need to get rid of some stuff, because to me, that's no longer easy to clean. Putting aside 30 minutes to clean a bed or a playroom, that's not easy to tidy. I want a home that is easy to tidy. That means we have to have less stuff, because tidying is putting stuff away and where it belongs. And the more stuff you have that needs to go somewhere, the longer that's going to take. And that is not easy. Every extra item is a decision and another place that it could land. So if your house feels like it's just not easy to quickly pick up, like for instance, tomorrow we have an open house for selling our house. And honestly, I have not really cleaned much this week. Like, I got home from being out of town last week. My suitcase is still not unpacked, because that's one of my toxic traits. It usually takes me at least a week to unpack a suitcase. Again, hooligan energy over here. But I am not stressed. I know that we're going to have people coming. Well, I hope we're going to have people coming over to our house tomorrow to check it out, and it needs to be tidy and beautiful. And I know that it will take me maybe, including like cleaning and scrubbing surfaces and toilets and all of that, an hour, because we just don't have that much stuff, no matter how out of hand the house gets. That's what makes your space feel easy to tidy. So if you don't think that you could have people come over for an open house within like an hour or so, then that's probably a sign that you have too much stuff, because it spreads out and, becomes daunting. The second piece of advice to make your space easy to tidy is have zones for daily life. So group items in each space by activity. So this looks like, a coffee station, a craft corner, a reading nook. Things naturally stay in their place because the function of that area is clear. I think we talked about this a bit in the episode Home Organization Tips with Kanika Williams. I will put that episode in the show notes. But she makes a great point that to keep an organized space, you need to identify what that space is being used for. And then anything that does not meet that objective of the space doesn't belong there. So if your bedroom, I'm going to just use mine as an example. We have a bed that is for sleeping. I have a dresser that is for getting dressed. I have my podcast studio, which is for recording a podcast. And this is a big room, by the way. And I also have my elliptical. So it is a multifunctional room. It's where I sleep. It's where I get dressed. It's where I work out. And it's where I record my podcast. But each thing is zoned. My free weights and everything are in a little bin next to the elliptical and like on the side of the wall, kind of where the elliptical is. Everything for the podcast is here at my desk or in my desk. My dresser, the top of it is not perfectly cleared right now because I need to do that, but it shouldn't have anything on top of it except for what helps me get ready. So I have like my glasses stand for some backup glasses. Well, one pair of backup glasses, and my husband has a backup pair of sunglasses. It has my jewelry stand and my jewelry box, and that's it because this station is for getting ready. It has clothes and accessories. My bedside table. What do I need that promotes sleep? I have like 4 books underneath of it that are my TBR pile, my to be read, right? And then inside my little drawer, I have a sleeping mask and a ring tray where I can put my earrings at night. That's it. So a space is easy to tidy when it's zoned in a way that naturally you know where things generally go. So if you feel like your house is hard to tidy up, break your rooms into zones. Say, okay, I know this is the dog stuff zone. This is our eating zone. This is the bar zone. We do this with drawers and cabinets and that kind of thing too. But I'm talking like kind of like bigger spaces within the space. And this feeds into the next way to make your space easy to tidy. Number 3, which is you need to have a home for everything. If you know where something goes without having to think about it, because decision fatigue slows us down, right? If you know where things go, it's so easy to put it back. That's what makes something so easy to tidy. That's one of the reasons our playroom is so easy to tidy and so fast. Yes, it's decluttered, but also I know exactly where each toy goes. I'm familiar with each toy. My kids are familiar with each toy. We don't have a bunch of excess toys where we're like, where did this come from? Or you haven't played with this in forever. All of the toys are very regularly in rotation. I see them all the time and we all know where they go. So the kids can easily clean up. I can easily clean up. And we're like, this goes in this bin. This goes in this bin. This goes in this bin. It's very obvious. So it takes very little brain power, which is what makes it so easy to tidy. Same thing could go for like your kitchen island. A lot of the reason things get built up on these flat surfaces, like your dining room table, kitchen island, entryway table, whatever, is because they're items that don't have a home. Think AirPods, iPhone, hair scrunchie, keys, anything that just kind of comes with you, like comes home and leaves, like it doesn't have a permanent spot. Get a tray, make a home for it. So when it's home, it has a home. Your sunglasses, your AirPods, your iPhone, your chapstick, like whatever else that is like coming and going with you goes on this little tray. I do not have a perfectly decluttered kitchen island. I would love to somehow figure out how to do that. But the reason it's decluttered enough for me is that there's not a bunch of stuff spread all over it. I have one catch-all tray, and that helps keep that space easy to tidy and manageable. When inevitably my husband comes and throws his glasses case, down on the counter, my kids leave the remote control, halfway down a couch cushion, whatever, anything like that has been assigned to this tray. I pick it up, I put it in the tray. So yes, it's not hidden away perfectly, but it's all contained on one little tray, and it just makes my space feel tidier. Not perfect, but tidier. So you need to have a home for absolutely everything. If you are cleaning a space and you're like, oh, I don't know where this goes, either declutter it or assign it a home right then and there where you know exactly where it goes, where everyone in your house knows exactly where it goes. Your keys should go on a key ring. My husband, for example, recently has been driving me crazy because he has this one hoodie that he likes to wear at night. Like it's just like a house hoodie. Which is great. I support his house hoodie. Like I want him to be so cozy when he's doing the dishes because he is an angel who came down to earth from heaven, who does the dishes every single night while I cozy up in bed with my book like a little princess. However, he leaves this hoodie wherever his little heart desires, wherever the breeze leads his hoodie is where it ends up. And every day he heads off to work and I walk out and there is a hoodie somewhere that is just outrageously, blatantly not where a hoodie should be. It's on the bar. It's draped over the back of the couch. It's on the dining room table, just spread out there. It's on the kitchen island. And this hoodie, I'm telling you, is going to be the death of me, but it's not worth the death of my relationship by nagging him. Nope, I don't want to do that. And I know I am better at organizing than he is. I don't think all women are, for the record. I don't think that women should fall into the stereotype that they're just naturally better at keeping things organized. However, I am very good at it. Okay. And my husband is not so great at it. And so what I did is I hung that up where the backpacks hang up in the mudroom. Now, it doesn't like aesthetically please me to have it there, but he said at one point, I remember asking him about it, didn't really change the behavior, we'll go to marriage counseling over this, I guess. But like, I asked him about it and he was like, oh, well, I like to have it out here because I don't want to wake you up and like change in the bedroom or take it off or whatever. I like to put it on. I don't know. He likes to not have it in the bedroom. Fine. So now it hangs up in the mudroom next to the backpacks. And I took a little picture of it and I sent it to him. I think this was yesterday. And I was like, I found a new home for your sweatshirt. Do you think you could hang it here at the end of the night? And then I will always make sure, we'll make sure everybody makes sure that it goes back on this hook. Collectively as a team, we're going to take care of this little sweatshirt that's driving me nuts, right? And he was like, great, thank you so much. That's a good idea. Okay. It has a home now. Theoretically. Well, it has a home now. Actually, not now. Now it's probably in a suitcase somewhere on its way to Alaska, where I will then yet again need to find a new home for it as it wanders our new house in Alaska. But, as of today, as I'm recording, it has a new home for the next however many weeks we are living here. Okay. So that's a long story. But to say that even one item like that, it can cause a lot of distress when you don't know where to put it. So make that decision one time and stick to it so that you know exactly where it goes. The dog leash, the dog harness, the extra tube of toothpaste, the screwdriver, the scotch tape. I mean, I could just name anything in your house that tends to just float and drive you crazy because you don't know where it is or you don't know where to put it. Assign a home. Okay? Everything needs to have a home. That's what makes your house feel super easy to tidy. All right, that was a long one. Sorry, folks. Hey guys, it's time for your ad break. Each week I like to say a huge thank you for your graciousness that these are part of the podcast. Here we go. Number 4, use closed storage bins and baskets and drawers, things that take away the visual clutter. The idea is not to squirrel things away. No, I want you to be able to open every drawer and it feel light and airy and not squished to the brim. However, when it comes to having a space that's easy to tidy, being able to toss things in somewhere and close the door or, the sides of the bins aren't clear, right? Like it just makes your space feel tidy and actually be tidy without being perfect. This is a reason that I believe in cube storage over like those open toy bin storages where they're like the white trays that are kind of like at an angle where you can see everything that's in them. Like that never feels tidy, right? You're just like getting a rainbow burst of plastic Legos in your face all the time. No. Give me a cute wicker basket that I can push into the wall and nobody can see the 10 cars inside, like the 10 different monster trucks of different variations. Again, we're not just pushing things aside. Decluttering is huge because it's not going to be easy to tidy if all of these bins are just chock-a-block to the brim, right? I really believe in any sort of storage, you try and keep it half empty. My t-shirt drawer, half empty. My sock drawer, half empty. The toy bins, half empty. The cupboards, half empty. I want there to be 50% white space. That's my goal in my house at all times. However, it does make your house a lot easier to not feel messy, to feel tidy when your containers help hide and group similar items. Bonus points for making it easy, label said containers. For example, in our mudroom, we have 4 baskets. One holds church stuff. My son has like a workbook that he brings to church on Wednesdays. There's the notebook where I take notes from the sermon on Sundays, that kind of thing. Church basket. And it says church on the front of it. Next to that is our swim, like water basket. That's where sunscreen and goggles go. And newly, my son's swim cap. How cute. He is on a swim team and he has his first meet tomorrow. Like, who does he think he is at 7 years old? He's definitely going to cannonball in instead of dive in appropriately, but I kind of can't wait for that moment. So anyways, that's like our swim thing. And then next to that is hats. Okay, so all the hats go in there and it says hats on the front. And then the last one up there is bags. Okay, like tote bags. So we have like our Trader Joe's bag and 2 or 3 other easy to grab totes. And they are labeled. So that just like takes away any of the decision fatigue too. So I'm a big believer in labels. I mean, don't go labeling your cat, like let's not get out of control here. You know what your coffee mug is. You don't need to label coffee mug. But if you want to put some labels on the inside of your kitchen cabinets so that, whoever's unloading the dishwasher sees the little label on the front that says mugs. I'm like, oh, this is where the mugs go. I highly support that. Labels are helpful. So far we've talked about having less stuff, making zones for your daily life, like little stations inside your rooms, home for everything, closed storage that hides things. The next big way to make your space easy to tidy is clear surfaces. And you're like, wait, isn't that the point of tidying? Is that you're making the spaces or the surfaces clear? Yes. And keep as little permanent stuff on top as possible is what I mean. Now, I keep a toaster out and I keep our butcher knives out. I keep a box of tissues out. I keep some stuff on our counter because I'm not going to get the toaster out every single day when I make my kids toast after school. That feels silly. But I don't have little tchotchke decor on my countertops. I don't keep the blender out. Things that I'm not using daily, they go away. Picture frames, I've learned I prefer them on my wall, not on surfaces. Any possible way for you to keep less on your surfaces will make the tidying process so much easier because you can clearly see on the counter what is clutter, what needs to be put away, what needs to be tidied up. It's not getting lost amongst the stuff. One time I asked my husband to tidy up the kitchen counters or whatever, and he did a great job. But I came back and there were kind of obscure things still out. But it's because they were hiding in plain sight. There was everything but the bagel seasoning was just sitting kind of cornered, snuggled up with our, I don't know, colander. Nope, that's not the right one. A jar situation where we keep spatulas. We don't keep spatulas in a drawer. Anyway, and so it was just kind of next to it. Or there was a broken toy that was right next to the tissues, right? And that's because anything that's on the counter, things can kind of hide right next to, little clutter magnets. The more of that you have, the easier it will be for things that need to be put away to hide in plain sight. So if you want your space to be easy to tidy, then keep those surfaces as clear as possible. Similarly, you should probably try and minimize furniture. So too much furniture means, first of all, more spaces or surfaces to fill that, could potentially get clutter put on top of them. That makes it harder to tidy, right? If you have 3 entryway tables, then that's 3 opportunities for your family or you to come in and just plop something on it, right? But if you don't have anywhere to put it, it's a little easier to be well, I guess I'll hang it on the hook because that's where it should go. And it takes me 0.4 seconds longer to hang this backpack up on the hook. But if there's a tempting table right there where you can just plop it without thinking, for whatever reason, all of our brains will do that. So don't even give yourself the option. Less furniture is less places for stuff to accumulate. And it just makes that reset easier to do. The next piece of advice for making your space easy to tidy is keep your cleaning tools really accessible. I am not a cleaner. This is not a cleaning show, nor is my Instagram here's your cleaning schedule. A lot of decluttering and cleaning people go hand in hand. I am not one of those, okay? My house is decluttered. It is not that clean. I should probably keep up with the toilets more often than I do, okay? However, while I don't shine in the deep cleaning element of a tidy home, I'm pretty great at the surface level tidiness, right? Where I'm just tidying up a home real quick. And that's vacuuming or wiping down surfaces or whatever. And one of the reasons that I'm able to do that to keep our space looking tidy is that I keep all of our cleaning tools super accessible. They're not tucked away in the pantry or in the garage. They are hanging on nice, happy little hooks in our laundry room. I don't have a billion different options. I just have my, Swiffer wet jet and our cordless vacuum. And I keep Clorox wipes in the bathroom so that I don't have to spray and then wipe. I just have a disposable wipe situation and I can just wipe it and put it all down. It's accessible. I keep the Clorox wipes in the bathroom because that's what I need to clean the bathroom. I keep the vacuum and the Swiffer wet jet in the laundry room near the hallway because that's where they're used. You want these things to be easily accessible. So that's a great way to keep your space easy to tidy. Number 9, this kind of falls into the habits of the home type of a thing, but it is part of what makes your space easy to tidy. So I really want to bring it up. The next 2 are more habitual mindset type things. But so number 8 is do a daily reset. Your house will be easy to tidy the more you tidy it. But like that sounds counterintuitive. You're like, that's not easy. More is not better. Well, like I said, if you do a 5-minute reset of your kitchen island every night, it will never get those layers of clutter that are hard to tidy. So if you just get in the habit of doing it, it doesn't feel as hard because you do it all the time. It's why going to the gym feels easier and easier the more often you do it. It's just kind of like baked into who you are and part of your schedule. It's easier. Not only like is lifting the weights itself easier because you're getting the muscle, but just like going, it's just like part of who you are. Even though at the beginning you're like, oh, I have to force myself to get there. It doesn't feel as much of a lift the more you do it. And that goes for anything. Like we have these weird child locks on all of our cabinets that drove me absolutely insane when we first moved into this house because the people who lived here before had them put in. And so like anytime we want to open a lower cabinet, you have to get a special magnet off the like fridge or the microwave, wherever you keep it. And then you put it on the corner of the cabinet and it kind of unlocks it and then you can open it. And I was used to child locks that you just kind of like push down the internal hook. Parents, you probably know what I'm talking about, and open it. So you don't have to like go get something in order to open a cabinet. And when we first moved here, I was like, this is such a pain. This is so hard. But like we weren't going to change all the child locks and we needed child locks because our kids were little too. So we're like, we'll stick with this. And it took maybe a week of me trying to open a cabinet. It's locked. Me being like, and then like going and getting the magnet. But now I do not think about it. I just get the magnet and open any cabinet. It's just part of opening cabinets now in my life, right? Anything that feels hard at the beginning, the more you do it, it just becomes baked into your routine. So do a daily reset, not of the whole house. I don't support that because, again, our houses are meant to be lived in. And if you're trying to clean the whole house every single night, that feels really aggressive, at least to me. If that sounds cool to you, do it. My non-negotiable spaces at night are that the kitchen counter, actually it's more so in the morning for me, but the kitchen counter is cleaned off, the living room floors are cleaned off, the dining room table is cleaned off, and the like hallway is completely cleared of toys or whatever. Those are my main concerns, main living spaces. And that's what I do, my daily reset. So get into that habit and it becomes easier to tidy because nothing builds up. Okay, number 9, again, a more of a mental thing, but you can make your space easier to tidy when you have clarity on why you have your belongings, why each of these things you've chosen to keep in your house. This goes with decluttering, but I think it goes beyond that. You have clarity on the kind of life that you want to live. And so when you see the thing that's like very annoying to pick up and tidy, it's not as hard to declutter because you're like, I don't need this in my life. If you see something that's kind of sentimental, the teacher sends home some cool art project. You have clarity on how much of that you're willing to keep for your kids. You've already decided ahead of time what you need to keep or what you want to keep and what you want to release in order for your home to feel lighter, better, happier, etc. If you're in the middle of tidying and you have to second guess your choices as to what to keep, what to throw away, all of that adds to this decision fatigue. That's beyond, does it have a home? It's like, do I even want to keep it? So you're going to do that big declutter that we talked about at the beginning to keep your space easier to tidy. But you need to keep that mindset. You need to keep this clarity of what your goals are and what you allow to stay in your home. And that will keep the house easier to tidy too, which is why I encourage you to come back, listen to this podcast weekly, subscribe to the Less Express, my newsletter. Keep this mindset front of mind so things don't creep back in or become, really hard to make a decision about when you're in the middle of tidying. You can be like, nope, I know it's important to me. I'm going to keep my eyes on the prize. This has got to go. And so number 10, this leads into that. A way to keep your space or make your space easy to tidy is to have that designated donation bin, okay? Have a permanent place for the things you no longer need. So it makes it really easy to declutter on the fly without turning it into this whole project because that's not easy. So if you see an item that doesn't have a home and doesn't fit your values because you're aligned with those values, you have clarity on it, you just pick it up and put it in the donation box. I always recommend keeping it to be a cardboard box that you can just pick up and bring to the donation center of your choice rather than it being like a fancy bin. Then you have to transfer things into a cardboard box, and that's one extra step you're not going to want to take. So whatever you're putting it in, make sure you're willing to part with that as well. So like a cardboard box or a bag is a great idea. I hope that those 10 ideas are helpful in terms of making it feel possible and doable for you to have a space that's easy to tidy, where like me, like I said, it's such a gift to know that I don't need to be stressed the day before an open house because tidying up the space is just going to be a breeze. So real quick review. Number 1, have less stuff. Number 2, have zones for daily life. Number 3, have a home for everything. Number 4, choose closed storage. Number 5, am I on number 5? Doop, doop, doop. I should really number these things. Number 5, keep clear surfaces. Number 6, keep minimal furniture. Number 7, have accessible cleaning tools. Number 8, do daily resets. Number 9, have clarity over what kind of items you want to keep. And number 10, have that designated donation bin. All right. Thanks so much for being here. Say a prayer for me wherever Shannon is in the world right now. Say a prayer for the glowfish and for my 7-year-old because he would be very devastated to part with those fish. And don't forget to sign up for the Less Express. That's where I think I'm probably going to keep you updated on where I am in the world and what's going on, along with the weekly decluttering challenge and an inspirational quote to keep you on track with living with less stuff and more intention. So you can find that in the show notes where to sign up for the Less Express. And as always, thanks so much for being here. See you next week. You just listened to an episode of Paring Down with me, Shannon Leyko. If you enjoyed the show, it would mean the world if you can leave a review wherever you listen and share this episode with a friend. Those reviews really are what keeps a podcast on its feet for the long haul, and I will read every single one with a huge smile on my face. So thank you ahead of time. If you're watching on YouTube, don't forget to hit subscribe. Also, be sure to follow along on Instagram at paring_down, where I offer lots of tips and inspiration for paring down, along with what's new here on the podcast. Till next time.